will call this meeting to order at 7:20. I do want the record to reflect it was not only my fault that we were running late. So I apologize. I'd love to invite you to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll move on to the approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the board minutes for the regular board meeting on April 14th, 2020?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Wow. Okay, so we have Mr. Buster and Mr. King. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. We'll move on to our general functions, and our first item is staff, student, and community recognitions. Mr. Cruz.
Thank you, President Pratt, members of the board. We don't have any special announcements, but we do have some folks up for recognition. First up is Miss Krista Fields, followed by her good friend, Mr. Ken.
Good evening, President Pratt, Superintendent Cruz, and members of the board. I have a few recognitions I'd like to make. First, to our Copper Ridge instructional team leads, Darcy Ashley, Annabelle Pearson, Tegan Hatley, Christine Leach, Parker AAA, Melissa Uribe, Dion Nieto, and Lori Spees. These are amazing staff members, but more importantly, incredible humans. They have provided strong leadership and consistent support to Copper Ridge this year, always leading with passion and integrity and doing what's best for students. I'm truly grateful to work alongside them, and they also keep me balanced, which is no small task, and I appreciate them more than they know. The second recognition is to our student achievement teacher, Miss Lori Spees, for the tremendous amount of coordination and effort that goes into testing throughout this year. It truly is the testing time, their Super Bowl, as we call it. Many of our staff wear multiple hats, and Lori exemplifies that. She supports statewide testing while also teaching and leading in other areas, including advanced math for our second graders and serving as designee. Her dedication ensures that our staff and students are set up for success. And then last but not least, I'd like to give a heartfelt shout out to our counselor, Michelle Wilkins. She is another example of a staff member who is an incredible human. She is always present for our students and for our staff. She is humble, resourceful, and deeply, deeply compassionate. She will be missed next year as she has to leave due to some family things, but will always be a part of our Copper Ridge family as the first counselor. So thank you so much.
Mr. Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz, President Pratt, members of the board. First, I'd like to thank my instructional team leaders as well. They have done just an outstanding job providing, guidance and support. We do ask a lot of our team leaders through instructional planning, data team meetings, and just being that general support for teachers, on the daily, in the classroom. So I'm proud to have Natasha Tepper, Jen Johnson, Christy Gosen, Sarah Hecht, Angie Renfro, Amanda Middendorf, Nadine Finnefrock, Janet Chavez, Michelle Pangle, and Makasha Peck as our ITLs at Sycamore. And one of the most important things that they do is also just help maintain, a school culture, a positive, culture at the grade level and also campus-wide. And then I'd also like to recognize Molly Cashin. She has just done an amazing job in her first year as assistant to the principal. So she is an important part of our leadership team at Sycamore. She's dedicated, she's kind, she's hardworking, she does all the things. And it's been truly just a pleasure to work with her this last year. And I know she's just going to be an outstanding future, leader in Vail. And then I'm gonna recognize my SAT as well. Mrs. Fields and I talked a little bit, but I'll tell you, Michelle Pango works so hard as our SAT and coordinating the ASA test and everything that goes along with it, with parents, with students, with teachers. There's a lot of components, and Michelle just does it with a smile and just does it so effortlessly. So she's definitely a keeper. And on top of that, she is also our yearbook advisor. So Michelle and Jen Johnson put together just an amazing yearbook this year. And again, we all know how important yearbooks are because they really do capture, all the memories that go along, during the year. And then I have to recognize Jeremiah Maps as well. He's one of our special needs parapros at Sycamore. He's also a former Sycamore, student. He also works as a crossing guard, and he's just so great with the kids. He connects with them. He's a great role model for them. he was actually helping out with one of our star-based classes just earlier this week. The teacher got sick and he just was right there side by side with the star-based teachers, just making sure, that the day went on for the students, without a hitch. And, he just has this little energy about him, this joy. And it's so good seeing our young employees, have that, with the kids. And then lastly, I'd just like to take a moment to recognize all the teachers that run a club or an activity at Sycamore. We can't really, we can't underestimate the value that these clubs offer our students, the opportunities that it offers them. So I'd like to thank Jen Lapano for running our community service at Crochet Club, Chris Miller and Erica Campbell for running the Muppet Club. Drama Club is Chris Miller. She's over 60 kids that participate, in that club. Our Right Flight with Amanda Middendorf, they just watching those kids actually fly an airplane is scary. But that's actually, it's just an amazing opportunity. The student leadership, NEHS with Sarah Heck, student council with LaKasha Peck, and also with Logan Boyer, who helped out. Band, choir, orchestra with Katie Savage, our STEM with Tiffany Opella, our engineering club with Jen Johnson, our Girls Run the World with Megan Klepper, Michaela Idris, and also her sister helped out a little bit this year, Madison Dugan, as well as our Peace Patrol with Sarah Heck. So thank you to all these teachers that just do an amazing job offering opportunities outside the classroom.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. I have a few district-wide recognitions. First up, you may recall the Southern Arizona Education Council. It's been renamed slightly. They have revisioned those beginning last year, and they're now called Empower Ed. And their ceremony is this Friday. And there will be 4 folks recognized at that ceremony, including teachers, Lorena Fonseca, Sean Wages, Matt Donaldson, and myself. So yeah, it's an honor for that, at least for those 3. And then we learned yesterday officially, first of all, the Arizona Education Foundation puts on the Arizona Teacher of the Year process, moved up their timelines by about a month and a half for identifying the Teacher of the Year for next school year. And we learned that Lisa Scott, science teacher at Esmond Station Middle School, actually Esmond Station K, she teaches middle school, is top 10 finalist and will be moving on to the interview rounds on Monday. So keep your fingers crossed for Lisa as she goes into that process. That's all we have for staff, student, community recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. Kruth. Our next items are called the public and acknowledgement of public requests to speak. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board. I don't see any members of the public in the audience or have any requests to speak. So we will move on to correspondence and reports. Our first item is the superintendent's report. Mr. Kruth.
Thank you, President Pratt, members of the board. Just a few things I want to tune people into. First of all, at our next board meeting, prior to the board meeting at 6 o'clock, we'll be doing our annual honoring of those folks who are retiring. We've had about 30, a little more than 30 RSVP for that process. So just put that in your books. That's 6 o'clock, May 12th. If we need a study session ahead of that, we'll let you know, but we'll be doing a ceremony from 6 to just before the board meeting, and then have those folks come over to the board meeting to be honored. And then speaking of board meetings, we're on the cusp of May, which means we're on the cusp of the end of the school year. And I just want to run through the board calendar for the rest of the year. As we announced these changes at the organizational meeting back in January, but I just want to, now that we're on them, I want to announce them again. We will have one board meeting in May, and that'll be May 12th. The next board meeting would have been right in the middle of graduations, so we're not going to do that. And instead, we're going to hold 2 board meetings in June instead of the second and fourth Tuesday as typical. We're going to actually be the first Tuesday, June 2nd, and then back at our regular scheduled meeting on the June 23rd. So the last 3 remaining board meetings of this school year are May 12th, June 2nd, and June 23rd. And then we'll be back on a regular schedule. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. We'll move on now to board reports. Are there board members who wish to make a report this evening? Ms. Thibodeau, Ms. Anderson?
Yeah, because Ed has his list of, you can go.
Sure,
Yeah.
ladies first.
You go.
All right, short on the meetings, had the opportunity to attend the reality check lunch at Ocotillo Ridge School with Mr. Caruth on May 22nd. It was phenomenal, just hearing perspectives. Again, I have a great reverence for educators. I love their backgrounds, I love their stories, I love their commitment to education and each one of our students, and getting the opportunity to break bread with them, phenomenal. And then, of course, had the opportunity to go to Patano High School's A+ celebration with the board, as well as Mr. Caruth. And again, have a special part in my heart, specifically for Patano High School and what they do over there on a regular and consistent basis. Just hearing their stories and where they've come from, and having the opportunity to see Second Chances in action and the loving, caring, adoring staff that would do anything for those kids because they're really their kids. And to see them celebrate together this A+ achievement, absolutely phenomenal. So I will not be undone. Lastly, but certainly not leastly, since we're coming into May, I have to say, from the science fiction geek guy, may the 4th be with you. And of course, we cannot go without saying Happy Teacher Appreciation Day, week and month to all those phenomenal educators that do so many things for so many young people and their parents in our community. If I could, I'd rent out an orchard and give each one of you an apple. But also there's a lot of holidays in May that I want to celebrate with everyone because I related to some of these folks in these different occupations across the spectrum. So obviously happy festive Cinco de Mayo, since we will be together. The happy Nurses, National Nurses Day, happy Peace Officers Day, happy Armed Forces Day, and every mom, grandmom, stepmom, favorite auntie, nurturing female guardian, and benevolent matriarchal female role models, and each one of our students' lives a very loving, kind, caring, considerate, happy Mother's Day. So take care of those moms out there and mom figures, because none of us would be here without them.
Thank you, Mr. Bester. Ms. Anderson?
Yeah, okay, I'll just add, quite a few of the things I've done in the last 2 weeks have actually been at Cienega because I have a senior this year and we're finishing some things, and I guess a couple of them are due to one of my other kids too. But I think what I love is that I get to be there with the kids, and I just love seeing programs and teachers and all that they do. And so I got to go to Cienega's honors night for the seniors. And it was just awesome to be able to celebrate all of them. And I know that the other high schools have theirs upcoming in the next week. I got to attend Cienega's dance performance. Just so shout out to Mrs. Stephanie Johnson. She does a phenomenal job. I can't say enough about her as a teacher and how she's impacting kids. Yesterday, I got to be at Cienega, their thespian program and drama program. Had a guest speaker. It was Matt Denny from the University of Arizona's Fine Arts Department. And so I got to be there and hear as he talked to the students about what it looks like and what careers and pathways there are in the theater program. And then last week, I spent a few days at the fair and got to cheer on a lot of Vail students. First shout out to Ms. Sarah McNall at Cienega for her agriculture program and FFA. I think she worked, probably 12 to 14 straight days the last 2 weeks, nonstop. And I'm just grateful to her and all that she's doing. And then throughout the district, we also have students from a lot of schools from elementary through high school doing 4-H, and they were there competing. And so it was really cool to cheer them on and see their projects that they're competing with there. And that ended on Sunday. So, yeah.
Thank you. Mr. King?
All right, so I'm gonna try to eclipse Ed with my board report tonight. So did the choosing connections with a few people over at Vail Academy. And actually it was kind of cool to see kind of the surprise that actually went through. But recognizing the teacher was actually recommended by her mentee and seeing how that all came about. Also, we did get to go to the A+ celebration at Pantano and got to see kind of the public recognition of the little bits of work that happen every day that nobody ever gets to see, you know, those moments. And that's that public recognition. So it's always good to see. On top of that, we had a reality check lunch over at Cienega, and we got to meet Parker, who's an English teacher. And one of the cool things about him is he actually taught English in Korea, so up near Seoul. Got to meet Stephanie Stevie Johnson, who teaches dance over there, and she was actually kind of cool. Learned that she's actually very, very involved in real estate as well. Aaron Ravenel, the football coach over there, got to hear a little bit from him, and Kayla Mack, who's the lab tech over there at Cienega, or one of the lab techs over there. And we had something else. We had something in common as well. She was a military brat, Air Force brat as well. So we had that little bit of connection there. So it was kind of good to hear a little bit of their perspective and kind of have lunch with them and Superintendent Caruth. Also did the religious leaders lunch. So we got to come together with a bunch of the people in the community from the district, from the faith-based community as well, and kind of working together and seeing how that all kind of comes together. And then attended a membership engagement committee for Arizona School Boards Association, trying to figure out how we can get member districts and non-member districts to be a little bit more engaged and actually working forward, doing the work to put kids first. And then lastly, last night I attended a site council meeting over at Vail Academy. And it was kind of really good to see, kind of the work that goes on in the background at the individual site. And the last time I attended one of these was when my kids were in school. So that was many, many years ago. So I'll say probably 20 plus years ago. So it was actually kind of good to see, especially in a new school for me, because the last time I was there, it was over in the Raytheon IBM Tech Park food court. So the last time I was at a site council meeting. So it's actually good to see. And I want to give a shout out to Ms. Diane Vargo and Mr. Jeff Vanderford for the amazing grace that they showed last night and listening to all the voices that were actually in the room. So and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. King. And thank you for going to Vail Academy, the site council meeting. Ms. Vargo's doing such a great job. So thank you for going. I also attended the religious leaders meeting. And I just love all the ways that people in our community pour into our students and help meet needs. I'm so grateful for that group. I also want to congratulate Mr. Walco and all those at Pantano for their A+ celebration. I was out of town and missed the event, but such an amazing accomplishment and really making real impacts for kids there. So congratulations to them. And then I also just wanted to publicly state, in case there's parents who are listening, that summer school registration opened this last week, and just want to say thank you to all those who are working on that. It's great opportunities for kids to either do some credit recovery or also get some classes out of the way, like health and econ, as they are going into high school. So thank you for all those who help make that happen. If there's no other board reports, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items listed below are consent matters and will be considered by one motion at this time. There'll be no discussion of consent items. Any board member may remove an item from the consent agenda by request. All items not accepted and approved as part of the consent agenda will be considered individually. Do any board members wish to pull an item? No. Mr. Griff?
We do announcement of us to speak?
We did, but nobody was here.
Okay, I didn't hear. Sorry, that. Sorry. That was me. Got
Oh,
it.
okay, okay. I would.
I was finding my spot and not paying attention.
Yep, no,
So,
you're totally good.
on the agenda. So thank you for being back on the same page. I'll recommend that the Vail School District Governing Board approve all items on the consent agenda as presented.
You'll accept a motion?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Seconded.
Mr. King and Mr. Buster, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. We will move on to old business, and our first item is the 2026-27 incentive pay packet. This is an action item. Mr. Group.
Thank you, President Pratt, members of the board. I'm on the same page now. Mr. Hurdle.
President Pratt, members of the board, this was brought to, and Superintendent Kirk, this was brought to you guys last time by Mrs. Witt, so I appreciate her pinch hitting and bringing this in. And we just wanted to bring it back to see if you had any additional questions for any updates that we're going to make to the 26-27 incentive pay packet.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make the recommendation and questions. That's President Pratt, members of the board, recommended that the Vail School District Governing Board approve 26-27 incentive pay package as presented.
I'll accept a motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Buster.
I'll second.
Ms. Anderson, comments or questions? I know this has been studied. Ms. Tippett.
Just appreciate the thoughtfulness that went into making adjustments to this year's incentive pay packet, and also aligning and streamlining some of the other processes that are related to it. We are living it right.
I will say, President Pratt, Ms. Tippett, members of the board, I appreciate that. Thank you. But I also want to appreciate and thank the teachers who have been flexible going through this process, the principals who've had to learn new systems and new routines and things that they understood for 20 years that now have been offended. So it's been bumps, but I appreciate the flexibility of people doing things, and I'm confident that this will be more streamlined and better for all as we move forward.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I just want to say thank you. I know this was, I think we're already seeing lots of things that are better, which means better for kids. So thank you for your work on that. If there are no other comments or questions, and I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Not seeing any, motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to new business. Our first item is a consideration of employee salary increases. Excuse me, FY 2027, a study item. Mr. Cruz.
Thank you, President Pratt, members of the board. We've been studying the budget process in study sessions, and just bringing, I believe we've had it on the consent agenda or the regular agenda as well, just the general budget process. We're moving to the point where we're formulating some of those recommendations into what might constitute a COLA. So Mrs. Emsley is going to report on that in just a moment. And I just also want to acknowledge that the previous board action item related to the overall compensation package has already occurred, and that had to do with the insurance health benefits and the board's commitment to continue the level of contribution, even the increases were in place. We're a few districts that have made that level of commitment to our employees. And I want to say, as we move into what salary adjustments might look like, think about total compensation. Because I just want to point out as we get into that process that total compensation also includes what happens with benefits package relative to that. Just tell a few neighboring school districts as an example, we're putting forward salary increases for their staff, but they've also passed along larger increases in health care benefits or health insurance benefits for them. So it's we're out of all that process. So I just want to frame that up as takes it from there.
Thank you. Thank you, President Pratt, Superintendent Cruz, and members of the board. During the FY 27 budget development process, the governing board is studying multiple components of the budget, including proposed 26-27 salary increase options. This item has been studied and discussed at previous study sessions as well. The governing board has studied options for potential salary increases based on our projected enrollment growth, 0.6% in grades K through 8 and 1.2% in grades 9 through 12. as well as the continued health of our budget, the projected inflationary increase in the base support level of 2%, the projected increase in the M&O override funding based on ADM growth, the projected increase of the city's minimum wage to $15.85 per hour, and information from our neighboring school districts regarding potential pay increases for the 26-27 school year of 2 to 3%. A recommendation for a minimum 2% increase for all employees in a regular position will be covered within the 26-27 annual budget, including maintenance and operations, community programs tuition, Vail inclusive preschool tuition, other identified grant funds that are already supporting staff positions, and Prop 301. This is a study item at this point in time. I'll turn it over to Mr. Crew. Thank you.
Answer questions.
Any board members have any questions or comments? No? Are you thinking or? Mr. King? Not yet. Very good.
I know this is, we talked about this in study session, I've talked about this, obviously, are any, do you have any comments, Mr.
Our overall process and being able to move forward with this is what we're shaping up a recommendation for a cost of living increase from kind of across the board for employees of 2% for all employee groups. Looking at framing for teachers a minimum of 2% for them in a lump sum amount, which would be a similar process that we did last year. And that allows us two things. One, to tap into some 301 funding to be able to combine for that, which helps us be able to spread an overall amount out to all employees when we can tap into that bucket a little bit. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, if we go that route, this is the actual pay range is 2% for those on the highest level of the teacher range to 3.4%. For new teachers, and so it's a bit of a range there by giving a lump sum amount. That lump sum amount would be if we move forward with that recommendation, 16. So that's kind of the frame up of the process in general. And as Mrs. Emsley noted, and it's on the next agenda items, the overall budget too, we're really and I'll speak to it here since it's germane to both items, but just yesterday, the House and the Senate have proposed a state budget. The governor still needs to, there's negotiating with the governor's office on what that budget will be. Reportedly, they're about $800 million off between their two respective proposals, but some things are pretty clear right now on what the state budget has in it based on the legislative budget that's been put forward, and that is in regards to education. All of the base numbers that we were anticipating would be in there, as an example, a 2% increase on the base support level is in there, which is our biggest increase that we would get from the state. And just to put that in perspective, consumer price index for inflation was 3 point what this month? Was
3.74.
It's 3.74. The maximum that the state will provide districts on an inflation increase is 2%. So we're managing that. The 2% doesn't mean that's an entire 2% increase across our entire M&O budget. So we have to look at how to manage that. So we're getting more efficient to be able to offer. Quite frankly, we're getting more efficient to be able to offer a 2% increase to staff to be able to do that and be responsible. The other thing that's carrying us is we're growing. We're still a growing district. We're anticipating about somewhere in between 1% and 1.5% overall student growth, which really helps us. So again, we're becoming a rare school district in regards to growing, and don't take that lightly. We take that responsibility seriously and mindful. But those two conditions kind of some clarity on what the state budget will be. I don't anticipate that the governor would anticipate lower amounts for the education than what they currently are, and where they currently are is about what we projected them to be. So we're pretty comfortable in that range, being able to move forward. So that provides just a little bit more context. Happy to answer questions or comments. Our intent is to bring this back as an action item for salary guides at the next meeting. As I mentioned, we have 3 board meetings left. We'll, if it's not at the meeting on the 12th, it'll be the meeting in June. We'll bring amended contracts back for staff and administrative folks. So just what that process looks like. If there's a salary increase, teachers have been issued contracts already with language in them that we can amend them if there's no salary. So we will do that. If not at that meeting, the meeting first.
Any comments or questions? Yes, Mrs. Tibbet.
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate our budget development process and that we're working on this starting in January, and it allows us to just kind of layer different pieces as we go and progress through the budget development process. And considering what those base support levels that we believe will be coming forward out of the state budget, and the proposed salary increase of 2%, minimum 2%, I think is really prudent. I feel like it threads the needle. I think we would all love to be able to do more, but we also want to make sure that we don't get right up to the edge of our budget limit as well. So I feel like the 2% recommendation is comfortable for me.
Thank you, Ms. Tippett. I agree with you. Mr. King.
Thank you. Superintendent Carruth, you talked about the 2% to the M&O. What portion of that 2%, what portion of the M&O gets that 2%? Because you said that not all of it doesn't apply to that, doesn't get that peanut butter spread to the whole M&O budget.
I'm going to have to ask my finance friend, Michelle Lenhart to answer that. But it's so the base support level is functionally our budget is built on student enrollment, and we get a base support amount for every student that's here. I'm going to use rough numbers for purpose of illustration. Let's call it $7,000. So the base support level increases on that $7,000, so 2% more than what that is. Now, all students have a weighted count too, depending upon their relative other add-ons. So if a student is in high school, for example, there's a bit of an add-on weight for that. If a student receives special education services, there's add-on weights for that. Free reduced lunch, so on. So there's different buckets of add-ons. There's different categories of add-ons, but the base support level is only an increase to that base amount per student. Again, I don't have what that exact is. That's for illustrative purposes. I'm just using $7,000. That's roughly in the ballpark. So when you think about that, our budget looks at what the base support increase is, and then what the weighted student count is, which is all of our anticipated students. So for us, the 2% base support amount is just over $2 million. It's actually $2,079,219. So out of a roughly $142.5 million total budget.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our next agenda item, item B, 2026-27 budget development. It's also a study item, Mr. Cree.
Thank you, President Pratt, and members of the board. In retrospect, probably should put this item first and then the salaries, but that's okay. Doesn't, they're germane, and mostly what I wanted to do is put this item on the regular agenda as a study item to just be public again, just keep the regular pieces that we're publicly developing the budget is a part of the process. The last item, it's appropriate to talk about what the budget limits are relative to our ability to give to consider raises. So I won't go over all of those pieces again, other than to state we are anticipating a 2% inflation increase on the base support level. We are anticipating, and that's roughly a little over $2 million. We're anticipating growth, student growth, that would bring in just under $1.5 million. And then we have some carry forward adjustments and some other things that when you balance all of that out, we're looking at a projected budget increase over this current budget revision of about $2.6 million. So when you factor in those things of new positions to help manage the growth, what we're looking at, as I mentioned, what the board has already put a stake in the ground regarding offering district health benefits, which we're covering an increase of 7% on the medical side and 25% increase on the dental side to the tune of about $600,000. So when you factor all of those things in and anticipated salary amounts, we're looking at an overall budget limit. So, and again, just to state this, school districts operate on a budget limit. So that doesn't mean that's our total budget. We can only spend up to that amount. We can't spend over it. We're looking at a budget limit of about $142.5 million on our maintenance and operations side. And we're looking at a projected budget balance relative to all of those things and possible COLA amounts of about $300,000. So we're within the limits of where we need to be relative to that. There's carry forward that we're anticipating that will be about a 5% range as a cushion for us. So that's just overall. I mean, if the budget were started out as a lump of clay, we're starting to form it into something that resembles the working piece of budget art that we'll bring forward at the end of June by statute. And the other reason I just want to bring this forward at this point, by statute, we need to bring forward a proposed budget that we're considering for adoption, and that by the last meeting in June, so that you vote on that, so that that budget is public for a period of time. And then the first meeting in July, there was a public hearing before the board meeting, and then the board would formally adopt that budget in the first meeting in July. So the formal process for the budget pieces are really take place in the last meeting in June, the first meeting in July. Clearly, we don't wait till then to develop all of the components. It's really something that we start, we think January with where we're projecting the growth, and Ms. Lenhart, Ms. Emsley and others, and Ms. Wood go site by site, department by department to look at staffing needs, what our staffing ratios that built into those processes. And then we have discussions, study sessions to help you make sure you have the information is your responsibility to do those things. So, but that's it, kind of an overarching component. But just wanted to be, it's the end of April, but just want to be transparent with how we go. But happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Carruth. Are there any questions? Nope. Okay. Thank you. Our next item is the overview of the override and bond advisory committee, also a study item, Mr. Cruz.
Thank you, President Pratt and members of the board. I'm gonna jump on presentation. I announced in early February, the study item in February that we were considering the need to reauthorize the maintenance and operation override, and also take a look at our capital needs across the district and what might be needed in regards to capital cost. As a part of that process, pulled together a large community group consisted of parents, community members, and staff. We invited 60, pretty much roughly split into those categories. And in every meeting we had about 50 attendants. So it was a large group of folks that were there. Two things, most of the parents were associated with site council, so they were elected as representatives by their respective communities, by the school communities to participate. There were others that were a part of that. That wasn't enough parent representation, so we invited others into that process to make sure that we had good representation. It was acknowledged, though, that people who were on that committee were probably involved in schools and had some biases. And so we just talked about the norms of the process. We met over a series of 3 meetings total, probably close to between 7 and 8 hours of time that they invested, not to mention time they invested in reading all of my emails and background material prior to the meetings. But part of the, I just put this norms process for that up there for people to see. But I think the most important one is, what would your neighbor think? Really, people, they were highly engaged, but I also wanted them to think about not just what their thoughts were, but what about the thoughts of their neighbors on the street or block who don't have children? What would that perspective look like? So we dove in to that process. At the same time that we began this process, we also engaged with a consulting firm who did some community polling to get some information. And then we were able to bring that to the last meeting. So it wasn't just a group that was represented making some considerations, helping inform me on what recommendation to bring. And I also want to be clear, the purpose of bringing this committee together was to help me formulate recommendations to bring forward to you. So that's where that's at. So the first meeting, we really spent time just going over the process, but diving into the override itself. What is an override? What's the purpose? So just quickly, in case there's people online watching, I just want to make sure I'm clear. Override reauthorization, we are currently operating on a 12.5% maintenance and operation override. The maximum amount that a school district can ask for is 15%. As an example, this past November, TUSD asked for and their community approved a 15% override. We're not asking, that's not what we're on, and that's not what we're asking to move forward. It's just simply a reauthorization. If we don't reauthorize, the override has to be reauthorized every 5 years or begins to phase down in thirds. If we don't do that November 26, the programs that the funding supports will begin to fade away in 1/3, and the tax that provides that funding will fade away in commensurate amounts. So key timeline, must vote on the measure by the end of June. For that to put that on the November ballot. So what is an override? It's just local approved funding above that state base level that I just talked about in the previous agenda item. We get a base support level that we can't spend above that. What override simply means is you can go above that base amount by whatever percentage. In our case, it's 12.5%. For us, that currently is, and we, by the way, are provide transparency around what we use to override. Every October or roughly thereabouts, we do a public, we bring a report on the override funding to the board for the purpose of being transparent about it. But for us, that's about a $14 million amount currently. So if you think about the $142 million budget that I just talked about, of that $142 million, $14 million of it is provided by the override. So what does that override provide? Well, it can only be spent in the maintenance and operation, functionally on people. For us, that is comprised of teachers and some supplies. And the other key factor, Vail has been operating on an override. The community has supported the reauthorization of some form of an override every 5-ish years since 1993. So what does it fund? Functionally, funds programs for students beyond the basics. Without the override funding, it's hard for us to provide the basics. So things like art, music, PE, gifted, AP, advanced courses, and class size. So it keeps our class sizes smaller than they otherwise would be. It funds somewhere between 72 and 73 teachers who provide those services to kids. For us, that's about 20% of our teaching staff. This last override, actually last two overrides, there's a base amount of about $1.5 million that goes towards salaries for everybody but non-administrative staff. That's current. If we reauthorize it, we can take that amount and simply put it into programs. Doesn't have to, whatever we stated in that amount that's what we stated in the amount to voters last time. We could take that amount and simply apply it to positions next time. So just something we're talking about. So that's what the override does, what it funds. We talked about that. The next meeting, we spent time talking about the bond and the bond needs. So bonds where override provides programs supported by people. Bonds support stuff, growth, buildings, equipment, that kind of thing. Our last bond was 2018, so 8 years ago. At the conclusion, I'll talk about that in a moment, of Saguaro Creek really was the last of our use of our bond funds. Historically, we've used bond funds to help us with student enrollment growth and what that looks like. So you can see that was the agenda for meeting 2 and recap what we looked at relative to that. So how do we do on our 2018 bond? It was just under $62 million was what the community funded last time. You can see the categories: the technology, construction, health and safety, education, and some administrative functions, which were, I believe, some of the also related to some of the technology components. Oh, the administrative functions, I know what it was facilities for transportation, because any non-school building construction has to be labeled administrative functions, and so we added to the maintenance of the bus barn, the ability for additional mechanics bays and some expansions there. So that's what that's about for. But you can see, we said we told the community we were going to do these things. In essence, we've done all of them. There's when you see about $2.5 million in progress regarding health and safety, those are just some remaining things like fire suppression and some systems that we're working with insurance on, and some other grant programs to be able to leverage the remaining amount. So all of it's encumbered and it's in process. So we asked the community for the funding for these categories, and we delivered on them. I think primarily, when you think about new growth, built Micah Mountain High School, Saguaro Creek, K-8, did an expansion at Vail Academy in high school, did an expansion at Andrada High School. So those were all kind of big ticket items relative to that. So where are we now in regards to capital needs? We've been working for the last year and a half on building what are kind of compiling a facilities plan and capital needs plan. To put it in context, our total capital budget for the entire school district is just $10 million. So when you think that we have about 26 facilities, over 1 million square feet under roof, I can't remember how many acres we have to maintain. $10 million doesn't go very far when you have to purchase computers and also software and licensing out of that bucket. So we have somewhere around $2 million that we can put back into schools out of that $10 million. So when we're looking at a total need, we're really looking at kind of 3 key areas: safety and security, the learning environment, and growth and new construction. You can see kind of what some projects look like relative to that. We're looking at an amount somewhere around $130 million to help cover some of those things. Some of the big projects would be for growth, expansion of Micah Mountain and Saguaro Creek. That's where, when we need growth space, that's where we anticipate that will happen. And then we just have a whole lot of upgrades to classrooms, classroom buildings, some renovation of learning spaces, gymnasiums, and deferred maintenance catch-ups and those kinds of things. And then on the safety side, things like, it's not sexy stuff, but fire panels and HVAC systems. Frankly, the state should be helping us with those things. They're not. Updated security cameras and access control at all of our schools, and some communications upgrades. So those are kind of the buckets of pieces of building. You can see, I just pulled, we did this for every school. I showed the committee kind of what it looks like for a school. This is Acacia Elementary School. It's our one of our oldest schools. You can see the categories of things that are there, things like door locks and weatherization, which is painting, and weatherization, sealing of the building so that you don't get mold and those kinds of things in there. Roofing, portable and renovation, renovation or replacement of modular buildings, which is a big number, but those, because those portables are over 30 years old. Facility like Acacia, you can get a sense for what that looks like. Just Acacia alone, we're looking at kind of a low cost to a high cost average, and of what it is to do those projects, somewhere in the neighborhood of $9.5 million. So when we asked the committee kind of what's your, if you had to rank how to do those things as far as a sense of urgency, you can see what they ranked them as. And the reason that growth in new space isn't urgent is that we're watching growth. We just opened Saguaro Creek. So when we say urgency, we're probably at a minimum 4 to 5 years out before we need new space. Whereas kind of those other two, I think maybe felt that we're on a more urgent basis, needing to be able to address first. So I just want to pop through a couple of slides regarding the polling results that we received from partners who did that work. There were 434 respondents, and the professional polling group knows what our demographics are based by voter groups and by age. You can see what that looks like. Frankly, so there were 42% were Republicans, 29 Democrats, 29% independents, about a 50-50 split male, female, and then also by age range. High efficacy, so those that were polled are high efficacy voters, so those that vote in every election, and often also vote in primary elections. So it's a good sample size. So what did the overall top line say? Well, good news is, how do you feel about the Vail School District? 76% had a favorable response to who we are as a school district versus 11% unfavorable, 12% no opinion. Overall, education quality, 57% said totally satisfied. Now remember, a lot of those group of people don't have school-age children. So it's not, this isn't a parent survey, this is a community survey. totally satisfied, with, quality, 10% dissatisfied, 11% neutral. And then this is where it gets interesting. And I think I've been in our community a long time, and I've done a lot of elections in our community. And, I think this is telling. I wasn't surprised by this. So we really like you. You're doing a decent job. When you asked me, would you vote yes for the two measures, right off the bat, about 36% yes, 31% no, and about 33% unsure. That's with no messaging. It's just kind of no more information than would you vote for that. So that's where we are relative to that. And then when you pull apart, and I think this is a slide for us to pay attention to. The next question, if you said you would vote yes for those things, and you were could only support one of the two, which one, there was about an 8-point difference in support of the bond versus the override. So I think that's something to pay attention to if we're looking at asking for the two questions on the same ballot. We consider that. And as you remember, the override supports programs for students and the people who support those programs, and bond supports capital infrastructure. So when the pollsters asked which areas would you like to most see focused on, class offerings like art, music, PE, advanced courses, things around student behavior. So for us, how are we helping with that, counselor? Those kinds of programs for kids that engage them. Academic performance, school safety, extracurricular activities, you can see all of those things. Class sizes is another one that was up there. Things that receive the least amount of support or things that would be supported by capital needs. So I think there's just a lot of voter education that needs to happen about what is the difference between a bond and an override. It's that overwhelming support for things that an override would does provide for our community. Also, where should the funds go? Teacher retention, expanded extracurricular activities. So kind of falls into that. So key takeaways from the polling: strong foundation, but there's some soft support. There's a lot of unsure voters, about a third. The messaging around an override, in other words, programs for kids, to provide a well-rounded education, resonate really well. The issue that it wouldn't raise taxes. Neither of these questions would raise the property tax rate. In fact, I'll talk about that in a moment. Was an effective part of the message. Where there's some vulnerabilities is what's fiscally accountable. I think just general mistrust of government, but be transparent around that. People have questions. I think when people hear override, flip of that is, well, why don't you just live within your means versus how do those funds provide something beyond a basic education, which is where that resides. And then if this were to win, the target group is Republican and independent unsure voters. So we talked a lot about tax rates also with our committee, and I just want to show this. So this is a scenario. I've got two scenarios. One, if we were to do both an override election and renewal of the override and a bond election at the same time of $135 million, what would happen to our property tax rate? And you can see that our current tax rate, which is all a secondary tax rate, is $2.84 per $100 of assessed valuation. So to put that into, of which our current bond repayment is $1.26, and the override is $1.58. That's how you come down to 284. Even if we were to move forward with the reauthorization of the 12.5% override and the bond, in any combination of 26, 27, or 28, our combined tax rate will go down. And you can see that here on the column from 284 in this scenario to 267 253, 242, and so on. I'm just giving another example of what that would look like if we did an override election in 26 and then a bond election in 28. We've got it modeled for 27 also. You can see buck 84, or 284, 267, 253, and so on. So both of those things would be the tax rate would continue to go down. Why? There's two reasons for that. One, I just talked, budget piece, we're expecting student growth of about 1.5%, but we're seeing assessed valuation in our community grow at about 8%. So we're the tax body is growing at a faster pace than our student body growth. When there's a larger tax base and fewer students, that models goes down. Also, we're just not asking for as much. We're pretty fiscally responsible for how we're doing that. We're not asking what the 12.5% funding provided 10 years ago. When you think about, when we just talked about a 3.4% inflationary increase this year, it's less. So we're absorbing that less in what we're doing. So we're being fiscally responsible. Tax base is growing faster than our student growth. So we're modeling those amounts. Somebody's paying attention. What does 284 in our secondary property tax rate look like? Well, if you think of your typical house, it's not, if you look it up on Zillow, there's an amount you can sell it for. And then if you look up your tax bill, there's a limited assessed value, or sometimes it's called a limited value. So that's the amount that we're assessed on. So it's a limited assessed valuation. It can only go up 10%. It can't go up more than that year over year. So I would say that probably average home in Vail is somewhere between, has a limited assessed value, somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 roughly. It's for every $100 of assessed valuation. So if you had a $100,000 house, your amount would be $284 per year. You'd be responsible for. It's a $300,000 house assessed valuation, just times that amount by 3. So what did the committee say? We pulled them at the end, and it was overwhelming to pursue a budget override reauthorization. Timing, almost the majority said November 26. So pursue a bond election. Yes, they think we need to pursue a bond election, almost unanimous. Pursuing a bond election. Timing on the bond was really mixed. You can see what that looks like. Some felt that we should go in 26. More thought that either November 20, some thought 27. So combine those, 16 said November 26, 26 said sometime later. Should they both be on the same or separate ballot? Lean towards the separate ballot. So the takeaway from the committee recommendation is that to me, again, is to pursue a budget override in November of 26 to reauthorize that. Again, that would be a tax rate increase, in fact, moderate decrease, and then pursue a bond. For me to bring forward a recommendation to the board to pursue a bond sometime between November 26 and November 28th, but not later. So that's what I have. It's an overall process. Thank you for the latitude to do that, but I wanted to be able to do that, in a regularly scheduled agenda item on that. And so happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any board members who have a question? Ms. Tippett.
Just wanted to thank the community members that participated in the committee, taking their time to kind of digest all of the information and give us some feedback on the information, what we're working on as a community and as a school district. Their feedback is really valuable as we move forward in making, in considering making these decisions. And just to appreciate the additional data that the school district gathered to help us make decisions. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tippett. I agree. It's probably one of the most engaging or engaged committees I've been on, so I think they've done a really great job. Thank you for pointing that out. Any other comments or questions? No. All right, we will move on then. Our next agenda item, D, is textbooks for public display. This first one, we're gonna have several. The first one is Principles of Business 10E, an action item. Mr. Crew.
Mr. Hurley. Yes, stuck with me for a little bit. President Pratt, members of the board, Superintendent Smith, when textbooks come up for adoption, they're gonna be adopted across a wide number of schools. Sometimes we will bring every possible textbook that we're looking at so that the public can weigh in on those things. But we also have a history of when it's a singleton program at a singleton school, we let the principal and the teacher say, this is the book we would really like. And then we bring it forward, we still put it on that 60-day display. But when it's just one person, this is the one we really want. So we've got a bunch of those for you tonight. The first book, as you know, Cienega High School offers lots of CTE pathways, and one of the new ones we're excited to offer next year is business management. Business management has lots of great hands-on things, but also we believe that the kids would really benefit from having a resource, and instructor would benefit from having a resource. We don't have a teacher in place yet, so we had Kim Bailey in the CTE department and Aaron Schmidt and Kim Middleton come to agreement on the book. We would like to ask the permission, the action to put it on display. We will certainly, after display, take all the input from the community, if any, bring them back before we bring it for a full official approval.
So with that, I'll go ahead and make a recommendation to the Vail School District Governing Board approve the Principles of Business 10E for public display.
Thank you. I'll accept a motion.
I'll motion.
Ms.
second.
Anderson and Mr. King. Comments or questions? Ms. Tippett.
I just wish I could convince my son to take the class.
Maybe we could make it compulsory,
Right?
only if your last name's Tippett.
You're right. Let's vote for that.
Yes. Mr. King.
He could always be one of the public readers of the book. So
That'll go.
the question I had was, how many community members have actually came up and gone through these references when we bring these books forward for the community?
Mr. Crew.
Very limited number. So frankly, it's one of the reasons why we want to, I mean, we could put this on the consent agenda. Lots of places do that and just move forward, but I think we just want to be more public about it. And we're required by statute to put it on our website and put it to do this. Most places just stuff it on the consent agenda. We're bringing it forward because it's pretty limited. I mean, can you remember anybody coming by to look at them? Mr. Hurley? It's very rare. Yeah, it's rare.
I know last year I reviewed the AP biology books and they actually held off, and I've got the AP biology books at my house. I'm actually going through them again right now. So for that one, and I know that I've came in other times, but trying to make sure that we get community members to come in and actually look over the books, especially since there's sometimes questions about what's actually in the books. So that's why we have all these books up here on the dais as well. So, thank you.
If there's no other comments or questions, then I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. We'll see you in just a second. We'll move on to our textbooks for public display. This one is an introduction to sports medicine and athletic training, 3rd edition, also an action item. Mr. Gurley.
Very similar. You can imagine with the anatomy and physiology and science background and all those things, it's very beneficial for the teacher and the students to have some resources. So teacher of the class, as well, Landis, as well as Aaron Schmidt and Kim Middleton came to agreement. And this is the book that they would like to place on display.
So I'll make the recommendation, the Vail School District Governing Board approve the Introduction to Sports Medicine and Athletic Training 3rd edition for public display.
You'll accept a motion?
I'll move.
Seconded.
Tippett and Mr. Buster. Comments or questions? Mr. King. Oh, I thought you were gearing up. I was ready. That's funny. Any other comments, questions? If not, then I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. We will move on to item F, construction e-curriculum for public display, also an action item, Mr. Green.
Thank you, President Tippett and Mr. Early.
President Pat, members of the board, Superintendent Cruz.
You're good. Off to the next.
I am very saddened when I see this and remember that Mr. Keck will no longer be our construction student teacher. And I am very excited that Michael Payton is going to be our teacher. And one of the things that I'm excited about is he has looked at some digital curriculum to help these kids, because again, we don't want them just hammering nails. They are following code and learning business rules and doing those things. So Mr. Tate and Mr. Schmidt and Mrs. Middleton came to an agreement on the book that they would like to put on public, the ebook that they would like to put on public display.
President Pratt. Make the recommendation the Vail School District Governing Board approve the construction e-curriculum for public display as presented.
Thank you. I'll accept the motion.
Second.
Ms. Tippett and Mr. King, comments or questions? Look like you have a question or comment. Okay, we'll just talk about. We'll get to-
With the ebook, how would somebody actually be able to come in and find that will there be designated computer setup to code to send out to the home? What does that actually look like?
Question, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Early.
Yes, President Pratt, members of the board. Mr. King, my understanding is that we will make a laptop available to them. We're not able to like widely distribute here's access to the things, but if they come here, connect with Mr. Schmidt, he can get them access to be able to go through the materials.
Did you have a question?
No, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions?
I wish my son would take this class.
We can make it all compulsory. Sorry. Mr.
Just for Tippett.
Yes, just for Tippett. Yes, Mr. Tippett, you have a very full senior
Poor
schedule.
guy.
You'd like him to have a full 6 classes.
I would support him in that class who'd like that. Very good. Well, if there's no other comments or questions, then I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Thank you. Our last one is textbooks for public display. This one's AP Music Theory, also an action item, Mr. Green.
President Pratt, members of the board.
President Pratt, members of the board, Superintendent Cruz, one of the things I didn't say in the previous 3 was those are JTED courses. And so we use CTE JTED funds to purchase those books. So they're not coming out of regular M&L. And this one, same story, different school, different funding source. We also get funding for advanced placement courses. And so we use that funding to buy advanced placement textbooks. And Micah Mountain has AP Music Theory, which is not just playing music or listening to music. It's lots of learning and doing things. And so there is an official exam at the end. And so April Bunting, the instructor, and Mr. Matsushino and the assistant principal, Mrs. Matsushino, have evaluated the AP course description, the AP exam, and have a recommendation on the textbook that they would like to use for on display.
With that, I'll make the recommendation the Vail School District Governing Board approve the AP Music Theory textbooks for public display as presented.
Thank you. All accept a motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Mr. Buster and Mrs. Anderson, comments or questions? Ms. Anderson.
So they're doing all 4 of these books then for it.
President Pratt, members of the board, it is not like a textbook.
Yeah,
It's like
that's what I'm looking
supplemental resources that fill in.
Mr. Buster.
Just a quick comment, huge appreciation because the Vail School District, that special secret sauce that we have, we're always growing. We never stay stagnant. We're always pushing the bar higher, further, forward on a regular and consistent basis. And that's for each one of those students out there that needs those offerings. That, again, always impressed by what we do, the caliber of education that we provide each and every time for a broadcasted student populace. Really, really super phenomenal. So thank you for all the work that you all do.
Any other comments or questions? I would love to nominate Mr. Buster to come to that class when they're practicing singing. Mr. Buster has a very good voice. He should come to this class. I thought it was super fun, the last few agenda items, just looking at the people who were recommending these, and I just think, I want my kid, just very similar to Mr. But I want my kid in that class, like, oh my gosh, these are all just such amazing people. Great educators, great principals, great directors. So I'm just so grateful that we have such wonderful people looking out for our kids and helping them be successful. So if there's no other comments or questions, then I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Thank you. All right, so our last agenda item is adjournment. I will accept a motion to adjourn at 8:35 PM.
I'm making a motion. I'll second.
Yeah, we're just gonna put them together, Ms. Amick and Ms. King. All those in
Good.
favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.